Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com. Today we are talking about liquidity in Venezuela. That's one of the main questions that I get from internationals, that if the Venezuelan market, especially the real estate market, it has liquidity, it has some resemblance of a liquid market. Well, let's start by the fact that the real estate market anywhere on the world is a pretty liquid market. This means, unlike, for instance, on stocks or currencies or Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, when you can liquidate the asset on real time, with real estate, you cannot do that. You have to spend, on the best case, a couple of weeks trying to sell a property. Usually takes a few months, and depending on the property, can take several months or even years. And this is all over the world. Venezuela is not different on that regard. However, many people ask that since the economic crisis that we had last decade, there's still some liquidity in the country. And the answer is yes, there is. Now, let's review how this liquidity functions here on the Venezuelan economy. Well, first, we have to talk about credit, banking credits, and it's pretty much not existent. The credit market in Venezuela is only around 1% of GDP. That's embarrassing. That's pretty much not existent compared to other Latin American countries, Latin American economies that have a credit market around between 30% and 70-80% of GDP, depending on the country, of course. And if you don't have credit on any given market, you don't have the purchasing power that it can circulate on goods and services. Very well. However, that doesn't mean that Venezuelan market is totally liquid. According to some estimates, there is around 400 billion US dollars on private savings for Venezuelans. That's both individuals and private Venezuelan companies. So, in an economy that it is around between 50 and 60 billion dollars, that's the Venezuelan GDP at the moment. I don't have a specific estimate, but it's around between 50 and 60 billion USDs. Remember, the Venezuelan economy was over 200 billion just a decade ago. And anyway, this 400 billion US dollars for this small economy, quote unquote small at the moment, it's a very important number. And many people, so that's what you see, that despite the fact that we don't have credit, banking credit here in Venezuela, we have a pretty decent liquid market for the standards that Venezuela has right now. The other fact is also that since there is no credit, there is also no debt. So the average Venezuelan doesn't have any particular debt, unlike the United States, where, well, in many places around the world, but let's just focus for the sake of the conversation on the United States. United States, most of the people have huge debts. I'm talking about households, I'm talking about private companies, even the United States government that has a 31 trillion national debt, something like that. Depending on when you watch this, could be even higher. Anyway, and of course, this fact, high debt is pretty deflationary and it hinders the economic activity because when you make money, you have to pay, you have to serve those debts, and if you don't do it, you lose your assets. Very well. And the thing is, from the past, let's say, 4 or 5 years, there is been the sentiment of the Venezuelan economy has shifted from getting the money out of the country to actually bringing the money to the country. and it is used on real estate. It is used also on many goods and services. That is being used on investing or local businesses and some infrastructure. I have to say, not a big deal. But some of them is being used on infrastructure and many other things that a liquid market requires. So just to summarize this video, there is liquidity? Yes. According to some estimates, it could be over around 400 billion USD. Of course, most of this money is on international banks, so it's not like you see it on the streets of Venezuela, but you see a lot of movement, a lot of money velocity on the past few years. That's the first fact. We don't have credit, banking credit. The average Venezuelan doesn't have a great purchasing power, although it's been steadily increasing on the past few years. We had salaries that were just a few dollars, like $10 a month, and now we have salaries on the lower end of the economy between $100, $200, and $300. It's not impressive. However, compared to just a few years ago, it's way better, and compared to other Latin American economies, it's not that bad. Actually, it's comparable maybe to Colombia or Peru, something like that. Of course, still those countries are way ahead on the curve right now. And the last thing is that what can you do with this liquidity? For one hand, let's talk, for instance, on the real estate market. You see a property and you may say, since there is no banking credit, there is no mortgage, nobody's buying, and actually some people are buying. Of course, not most people, for some people, both domestic investors or just residents and internationals alike are buying such property. There is a market. It's not a great market of buyers. However, this is still a buyer's market and not a seller's market, depending of each niche market. However, there is some supply. There is actually a bunch of supply depending on the region, but it's also a great demand that it's been increasingly steadily on the past few years. So there is supply and there is also demand as well. So don't get fooled by that fact. So the Venezuelan market is a liquid market. You can say yes until a certain threshold. Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, venezuelainsider.com. Thanks again. Have a nice day.